Hey, Abe,
Yeah.
you notice it's always a history of violence and never a herstory of virulence. I think that's problematic.
All right. All
Yeah.
right. Starting with the joke.
I guess.
Big old
I woke
jokesters.
up today and chose virulence.
Hey, I consider you woke every day. All right. Here we are. Our herstory of virulence. What year was this made? This was
2005, I believe.
2005. Thank you for that. Hey, everybody. This is Frame Rate.
We
take a movie
Buried the lead.
and we rate the frame.
He's revving up.
I'm Abe Epperson, and I'm here with my co-host,
Michael Swain.
Yeah, Michael Swain. And guess what? We have a guest. We have a guest today, everyone. Everyone, clap for the guest, please.
Yeah, that's
Guest.
how we sync up the tracks. You got to do it.
That's right. Applause concluded. All right, guest, introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Erik Barnes, and I think in 2024 it should be a they-story of valence.
Ooh, that's a even better joke.
See, that joke's
He
so
wins.
good now. Please escalate from clapping to crashing your car, flipping your car off the highway. Anyone who's driving and listening.
Hey, Eric, thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, what was it? 2 Fridays ago, last Friday, I can't even remember. You and I were having a chat because we just had here on the Small Beans Network, our last frame rate that we covered was on Road to Perdition,
Mhm.
which we found out, or we remembered during that podcast, that came from a graphic novel. And that was like weird to me a little bit. I was like, what? I always forget that. That's a crazy thing. And then you mentioned, which is something I had no clue about, that the David Cronenberg movie, History of Violence from 2005, is also, one of them graphic novels.
One of
or
them
based upon
comic
it.
book movies you hear
One
all
of them
about.
comic book movies.
Is that true
And
of Eastern Promises as well? Because I'm just
believe
learning
so.
this now.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Isn't that a spiritual sequel to it? Okay, I'm gonna look it up.
Maybe.
I haven't seen Eastern Promises, and I really want to. It's a Cronenberg and Vigo follow-up.
It is, yeah. I
To History of
remember.
Violence,
I
okay.
remember watching Eastern Promises. I don't remember Eastern Promises.
Is
though.
it bad? I
So
haven't seen it.
It's just
Anyway.
another one that you just wouldn't expect.
No,
I
but I
wouldn't,
don't
yeah.
think
I do
it
know.
doesn't look like it.
I do know Viggo Mortensen has a shit ton of Russian tattoos, and he's naked a lot. So
Yes, he's a mobster. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's still Cronenberg. Yeah. The
Yeah,
weirdest one
it's-
to me has always been It's a Wonderful Life was based on a comic a guy found on the bathroom stall wall. And he
it
just
really
like,
was. Yeah.
Yeah, he took
It's
a
a-
phone pic of it, went back in time, made It's a Wonderful Life. I didn't know we never pick these based on a reason. It's funny. My big note, I was typing a bunch of notes like, this is also a dad trying to protect his son from the chain of violence based on a
Yep.
graphic novel. Mike, you are killing it with the insights. This is genius. You're going to make
Mhm.
them flip their shit. And you're like, yeah, that's why we chose this one. So I'm done. I'm done with the episode.
Ah, shit. Well, Eric, can you cover for us, because it's typical on this podcast that we jumpstart our conversations by saying what your relationship to this film is, or to the graphic novel if you prefer.
Yeah.
Just like recap that little conversation. we had.
So, like, to the conversation that you and I had during one of those Friday night movies and all that type of stuff is, I'm a big comic book guy. Like, I really enjoy comic books, graphic novels as an art form, and I do love comic book adaptations of movies. And I think the issue, it's not an issue or anything, but it's a common misconception of, I think there's a difference between comic book movie and superhero movie, and the two of them understandably get crossed over. But I think that there are a lot of great film adaptations of comic books and of manga and various other sequential storytelling media, essentially using the comic as either inspiration or even, as Zack Snyder did with 300, as the storyboard for a feature film. And that some things get lost in the cracks of like, yeah, but of course there's the Marvel stuff, which we're all kind of, the fatigue is real, but there's also like really good movies that have been inspired by comic books, such as this one. And History of Violence was something I read back in college, and was released as a film. And this is going to age me back in college as well. And really, really found it interesting, especially the differences between the comic story, the graphic novel story, and the film. And between the two, the film beats the comic right out of the water.
I was gonna say
yeah.
It seems the internet seems pretty unanimous on it.
Oh yeah. Sometimes, not often, but sometimes the internet is 1,000,000,000% correct. And yeah, this movie, it's just, I think one of the things, like I'm also a fan of David Cronenberg and Cronenberg's movies, but the thing that makes this a bit special in his filmography is I don't know how many real adaptations he's done. And this kind of was able to allow him to have a pretty straightforward narrative without necessarily having him sacrifice his Cronenberginess, if that makes sense. So it was a film. It was a film I enjoyed, and then I got on DVD at Walmart because that was cheap at the time. So it was a pleasant rewatch, and I actually reread the story for this podcast, the graphic novel, and I am very glad that Cronenberg did the changes that he did, because it just made it actually very much more interesting by just taking the premise and running his version of it with it.
Yeah, and the graphic novel was written by John Wagner, art by Vince Locke,
co-creator of Judge Dredd.
1997, Judge Dredd.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Michael,
what?
Do you like this movie? Do you
I don't have a movie that deserves more hype. Are you asking me to go first? Because sorry, I cut you off in the middle of saying, because I...
I mean, go to town, because basically I remember you and I having some conversations about this movie when it came out. We may have even seen it together.
Yeah, I think we might have. Yeah, so I was joking. I actually could talk about this movie for many hours, which I hope we don't. Just because I have other things to do today. But I think it's an amazing movie. I thought it still held up. I also think it really overall raises the esteem of Cronenberg himself in my eyes, because when you watch, and I'd love to hear more from Eric about any notable, what the differences specifically are, but regardless of the theme, he'll get really like Existence and Crimes of the Future, and that's the first thing you think of, is like flesh melting, the fly shit. But by the way, I also just watched Eastern Promises on quintuple speed while you guys were talking. No, I read the plot synopsis, and it sounds awesome. I'm definitely going to watch it. I can't believe I haven't already watched it in a weird way. But my point is, I think it's a revelation to find that Cronenberg is also, which you knew, but you need reminding of. He's also a skilled craftsman, like a John Carpenter. Like he can, and it also recontextualizes the gore, because I often think of Cronenberg as, and I think a lot of people do, he's that guy that goes so far and he's trying to shock you to be as gory as possible. Yeah. What's really fascinating about A History of Violence is when you put Cronenbergian gore in it, which he does, but only when it organically happens, because it's not about a crazy dystopian new flesh. It's just a guy getting in normal fights with guns and knives and stuff.
Yeah, his normal nose planted into his face.
But people getting beaten to death totally happens and looks like that. Or Cronenberg is good at...
This is one of the few...
I guess what I'm saying is, sorry, just to finish the point, because I do think it's a really important takeaway, is... I come away from this going, oh, wait a minute. Cronenberg's one of the only American directors who respects violence, meaning this actually feels like it's not sugar pilling or dumbing down how horrible it is to shoot someone in the face. And it makes you realize the thing which we realize but can forget, that America fucking makes killing people in movies seem like it's no big deal. And in real life, we all know it's a huge life-changing deal for the person who does it as well, and even for people who see it.
Yeah.
So it makes me think of Cronenberg as someone who it's interesting. It totally flips me from going like, oh, he's the little violence perv who loves new flesh. And that's not true, but also to like, he's one of the only people who treats violence with integrity, actually.
I totally concur. With that, because the thing I would argue that out of the Cronenberg movies I've seen, this is probably his most grounded.
Definitely.
And to your point, Michael, none of the violence is fun. None of it. If you watch the movie and you see the violence happen, there's no cheering. There's barely even there's no yeah involved in any of it. It's in your face. It's brutal, but not exploitive. And there's a reason why in Rick and Morty, the body horror, monsters are called Cronenbergs. So he does have that reputation. But in this, it kind of just shows the impact of violence, why people go to such extremes while also being mortified by not the act of it, but mortified by, fuck, I never knew I was capable of this. And yet here I am, or I am capable of this and I'm doing my damnedest to shy away from it, to just make it go away. Even though just because I don't want to get into a synopsis, people should watch it. It's 90 minutes. But just so if people are totally unaware, it's a classic, and it's interesting. I think we should talk about how it compares to like a John Wick or a modern one, because it's so different. We've escalated the zaniness so much in terms of stunts and shit, but it's the classic guy suddenly realizes he's a trained killer and he somehow forgot that. In this case, by the end, it turns out he didn't forget. He was lying. Like, that's the big reveal. No, he really was lying. It was all an act. And
he got out. Yeah.
But I love, man, it really shined on this watch. Vigo acts like such a fucking Clark Kent pipsqueak. I forgot how he's like, oh geez, guys, I don't know if I can kill anyone. Bam, bam, bam.
And he just breaks them with his meaty paws. He just breaks their necks as if it's nothing.
Fucking Mayberry-esque town, and it's just crazy.
Yeah.
It's what's hilarious to me is, I can remember back in the day reading the comic and thinking, okay, this is pretty good. And then upon rereading it, just woof. It's such a I just read it thinking, man, what a waste of a very awesome premise.
Because it's mostly like about the violence. Like it's like, check this shit out.
Not just that. It's more along the lines of the characters are different. In the movie, I don't know how much we want to get into spoiler. Well, we kind of got into spoiler territory.
We spoil it all, baby.
Yeah, okay.
They know.
The deal is, in the movie, it is, he used to be a hitman. In the comic, he was a young kid that he and his friend, who is named Richie, shot up a bunch of mobsters and stole their money.
Well, it's not even his brother. Interesting.
Yeah, it's not even his brother. Not even his brother at all. And they stole all this money from the mob, and then he runs away and all this. And in being chased down at a fence with a barbed wire, he just is like, grabs a barbed wire, whips it at a guy, and it just happens to land on the dude's eye. So all automatically, he's not a badass. He's just a kid that done fucked up, and is trying to get away with it, and has up until recently. And all the other characters, the characters in the movie are fully fleshed, fully formed, but the wife, upon finding out all this, is just like, well, I still love you. And that's it. And that there's no conflict at all.
There's no mining it whatsoever about.
And she doesn't have an arc. Okay, she's just a fridged.
The teenager, it's all the most 2D characters. The teenager, first of all, the teenager is named Buzz in the comic book. That tells you everything, doesn't it? And his dialogue and everything could be summed up. Yeah. His entire dialogue can be summed up with the word in this tone. Cool. That's it.
Yeah.
That is it. There's no nuance whatsoever. And to spare you a full synopsis, it ends with seeing like a character who has been tortured for nearly 20 years, has no limbs, and is the song won by Metallica, essentially. And
so he just went for an over the top,
almost
like a preacher. Oh, the big reveal is something really gross.
Well, yeah, and even and the thing of it is, some the cops are sort of kind of involved, and it's just like, wait a minute, why are you working with this guy? He granted they were mobsters, but he shot up 5 or 6 people 20 years ago. You wouldn't just be like, oh, you're different now. Anyway, there's a lot of issues. The movie, however, what I found fascinating, it just made it more, well, not fascinating, but after reading the comic, it was more apparent and more revealing how the violence just isn't impactful between Viggo Mortensen's character and the mob and whomever, but everyone around him, especially his family, and how it's so impactful that none of the other characters, save for the teenager, commit violent acts, really. But how all this violence that has occurred spills over, and it impacts the people that you love. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit. I want to talk about because you were talking about how like the characters are fleshed out, and I agree with almost everything that's been said in the last 20 minutes. It's like the movie is definitely one of Cronenberg's best, and it's definitely akin to David Lynch's Straight Story or something like that, where it's like out of his like normal wheelhouse. And when we think about what his wheelhouse is, we talked about body horror and stuff like that, but we also talk, like with Cronenberg, a big thing for me has always been he likes to deal with reality as a kind of non-assumption. And in this movie, I think he is amping it up. Like it's one thing in Videodrome where it's literally being like, what is reality? And like, are you hallucinating right now? But this, I think it's more about hyperrealism, which is kind of like, I guess that's like a sculpting or a painting term. Sometimes it's used in film to kind of be like, when you focus on something and try to say this is real, but your effort is actually to show something so real or with such a resolution that it almost becomes unreal to you. I think this is the first time he's actually tried to do this, and I'm going to get flack from like some critical theorists for this next statement, but I think that this movie is so good not because Cronenberg, not because of his strengths, but actually because of his weaknesses. I think he's like the only person who could have directed this. In my mind, this movie is improved by the script, the direction, the acting, not because of the expected convention, like, oh my God, this is amazing, Philip Seymour Hoffman or Tom Hanks in, Road to Perdition or something like that is so good at acting and look at that moment. But because it's full of slightly different robots.
I'd say Viggo's doing more work than Hanks did in that.
Yeah, but even Viggo has this, but he's still doing this like stilted kind of dialogue.
Man, I think of him as a top tier, like one of our greatest character actors.
I do think that he does, he has nuance, but I think it plays into his like, oh geez, like you kind of mentioned, it's like the character.
Till he switches. Then he says, it would be better if you just left now. And you're like, it's on.
Oh, boy. Cronenberg has always been like a blunt instrument to me. Like point to one movie where his naturalism shined. And I like that this is like a companion to Road to Perdition, where it's like Sam Mendes is super focused on that stuff, right? He wants to build an expectation and then mine it, but like No Country is another one that's kind of in the same vein, but not this to me. I mean, you feel free to disagree with me, but I definitely think that...
I think it does do the thing, or it does have arcs, but it's as, yes, Cronenberg is blunt and simple, which is one of the reasons I compared him to Carpenter, because to Eric's point, he's like, it does express how violence changes each of your relationships. And yes, that's true, but it does it in a very simple way, which is he fucks gently. Then when he's violent, like when the violence is in him, he fucks real hard.
Yeah.
He would never hit his son. Then when his son acts up, he would hit his son. It's like, you know, it's very clear. Son. But we talked about with Perdition, where I'm like, yeah, it's very clear, simple stuff. I would say Mendes does a lot more quietly. Cronenberg's just blocking out the big arcs. Like, look no further than, of course, we have to at some point make fun of the bully, who is as paint by numbers as a scene where they go, isn't that homo stall that you hate? Yes, it is. You should beat him up. I'm going to later. That's the whole scene.
I'm a bully.
I am a bully.
Dude, right down to the Letterman's jacket. I agree. I do think that this is a blunt instrument, but it's a very smooth blunt instrument. You know, there's no cracks.
It's a glass dildo.
Yeah, it is. It is a glass dildo. But to talk about realities for a second. I do think that this does play with reality, but this is more of a subtle thing, obviously by comparison. But it's dealing with the realities that are a bit more conventional and that are a bit more relatable to our day to day, in the sense of who you are at work isn't who you are at home all the time, right? And in this case, it's like, okay. We have this one reality, which is the one I want to create, and that is an artifice, which is I am not this guy, Joey. I am this person, and parts of me are actually this facade, and parts of this facade aren't actually me. And now, especially the ending, the ending is the best in this, because everyone sits down and it's like, okay, are we going to now play along and we have this new facade, or do we hybridize our reality?
Yes,
like, do we hybridize it?
That you're this guy?
And there are certain things like, Maria Bello's character, which I think is very underrated in terms of the writing and the performance in this movie.
She kills it.
She kills it.
It almost
she fucking
seems
nails
though,
it.
if you've seen The Cooler too.
Yes,
I cannot think of a movie where Maria Bello does not show Bush. That's like her superpower.
The thing of it is like her character is, she has this character arc of like, oh, I unlocked something within myself that I'm afraid of.
Right.
I'm afraid that.
And then we never see Ed Harris's dick, which feels unfair. Back to your point.
But that's the thing, is like, does her character, it's like, okay, now I know this truth, not only about my husband, but also about myself. And do we play this up, or do we go back? And
this is one of the only movies, and I appreciate this grounded realism from Cronenberg. Realism, but Abe's right, hyper-realism. It's one of the only movies where I've seen an arc explicated in sex scenes that make the sex scenes not gratuitous. Meaning you actually needed both full sex scenes because they meant something in the plot. That's rare. And I like that he leaves it, I think, with Maria Bello's character with, obviously at some point she consented to the dominant stairway sex and reciprocated, but then it also cuts to her in bed with bruises all over her back going like, do I like this? Like, is this what I want?
Exactly.
Is this good or bad? What is going on? And that's
she's
very honest to me.
Yeah, it's honest, and she's questioning like this side of herself that she didn't even know she had. And whether or not it's healthy for her to have that. And and that's never, and that's the thing. She never outright says that aloud. It's all in the performance during those sex scenes and in those moments of quiet.
And the postcards,
the postcards.
And I think it's interesting that it's not really coming from the source material, or it makes sense, I guess, to me, that like the source material is kind of nothing in this regard, just because it makes a lot of sense that Cronenberg is like taking this to like put its stilted story to its stilted conclusion. I think that is effectual or effective, and it's also it's inscrutable a little bit to me, because I think it's partially intentional and partially not intentional. I think he does mean to do a lot of what we're giving him credit for. I think that like when he's directing extras in this movie, he's like choreographing them as like vacant entities that barely exist. He's casting not enough extras. There's lines like, "You're a hero, Dad," and like there's monsters under the bed is like the first metaphor we get with like his daughter.
Dude, the guy at the diner only has one real moment where he shines, and it's to tell a little anecdote about how once he dated a woman who was secretly violent, but it was out of her control. It's like it's very straightforward.
Yeah.
Like,
and then I married her.
That comes out of, I think, Cronenberg is an alien, right? Like the idea of this wholesome, humble living, which he can't really recreate.
Well, Crimes of the Future makes it really feel like he doesn't know what humans are, for sure.
Right, but it's so revealing in like a David Byrne way that he's like, don't you all see that this is kind of an unnatural dogma? Like when I watch the family diner school scenes in Act 1, everyone's actively trying hard to be in like Norman Rockwell painting, right? And it feels like an ad for that.
Well, I think that's the commentary, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I think he is going for that.
Yeah.
Because he knows his weaknesses. He knows that he can't do like a scene where it's two humans actually relating. What he needs to do, his focus needs to be two people fucking, and it's horrifying and kind of freeing for them because it's carnal and reveals like something that they've never shared before. Like he's a little bit got that kink, and I don't mean it as like a sexual kink where he's like getting off on it. I think he's doing the whole like the first sex scene, because just to like kind of spell it out, there's this vanilla like cheerleader kink that
and they 69, which is the symbol of gentle reciprocity, right? They're equal.
It's just all very run of the mill, like what I call basic expectations,
but loving, like husband wife sex.
But loving, there's nothing like look at these fucking vanilla idiots. Then the stairwell sex scene, which is primal, a tad
this guy can never lead Gondor.
And ultimately, like you guys are saying, it's revealing this two-sided animal, what we want to be and what we are. And that is where Cronenberg's strength is where he's like, because that's what we see as monstrosity or the uncanny valley, right? Is the disconnect from what we want to be and to what we are.
Yeah. And the question of, do you have any control over that? Because I think it really makes you ponder that the idea that they reveal late in the game that like, he lived in the desert for 3 years trying to force himself into delusion. Like it seems like he literally tried to forget that he was that guy and like make himself a new guy. And that's so interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, and that conversation that he has in the hospital with his wife,
which by the way, not in the book. In the book, it's
right.
like,
Why would it be?
Yeah. In the book, it's like, so who are you? And then he's like, well, and gives the whole backstory, and she just is like, well, I still love you.
Go get him, baby. Go kill those bad men.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Christ on a cracker. It's which sucks because I love Judge Dredd. It's fascist as hell, but that's the point.
That's the point, right? Yeah. For sure.
But you were saying, Abe, about all the extras and everyone just kind of like being, You're saying it's Cronenberg's weakness, and you're probably right.
That's my read.
But I think that's to your point. It is to the advantage because I think the overall theme is every single one of those people in that town has a little bit of fucked up in them, and they're trying to cover it up. And that's if there is any moral to this story, it's that listen, we all have a monster. It's just a question of how exposed we want that monster to be in our day-to-day.
Right. And it's interesting to me that
are you asking me to expose my monster?
I mean, with consent.
I thought you'd never
with consent,
ask.
If you're comfortable.
Jesus.
Speaking of
My
too
God.
comfortable and melodrama, I want to point out, because they die quickly, so we kind of forget about him. The guy from Pontypool and his
2.
henchmen, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool maneuver to do the sort of touch of evil dolly, and the people get
4-minute
murdered.
oneer.
The people get murdered off screen inside. Although I do think it seems pretty contrived that he's like, now go back in so to fetch something so we can see that I murdered those people.
That's what I think the contrivance is there from the beginning, because I also took a note of at one point the guy who's sitting in the car who we followed while the other guy goes in for the first time. He goes, "What took so long?" And I was like, "Dude,
like
he was in there
murdering,
for like
and
20
you knew
seconds."
that. Yeah. Also,
Mhm.
it's so funny, or just that they're like, clearly Cronenberg was like, there is no too much. You can be, like you said, a one-dimensional mustache twirling, reveling in evil. Like there's a shot where the younger bad guy covers a woman's mouth to shut her up. Then he wipes, because she spit on his hand, he wipes his hand on her boobs. Then he smells the spit on his hand. Then he wipes his own boob. It's like, what is that move?
Yeah.
It's as if he was directed like the bully. Oh, it's almost like an AI engine where you go draw a bully, more bully, more bully, more bully.
Kind of is. It's awesome. And what he's doing with William Hurt in this movie.
Oh, William
which,
Hurt's
by the
so
way,
fucking good.
the best first line in a movie. It's said on the phone by William Hurt in his entire career, which is, how do you intro William Hurt in this movie? He says, "Hey, broham."
Yep.
Gonna kill ya.
So many choices. So many choices.
He's
for
got like
William
a
Hurt.
metrosexual Amish
God,
beard.
for some
Yeah.
reason, that
Shaved
brings to mind
mustache.
the
Yeah.
mattress man. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
Will you
exactly.
Please shut the fuck
It's
up.
like unreal. It's like, what are we watching?
This
And then
weird-
he goes and he like,
This,
oh my God.
yeah, his weird, like, what if a mobster tried to be classy but just plain can't? Look, is
and that he's
just-
mid-level, like he's
Yeah.
not the Don and he's not a low level.
no, he's
Yeah.
middle management mobster, and he's an MMM. You know, and that's
Yeah.
that's the deal. Right down to the as Abe pointed out, this beard stubble, but with a shaved mustache area. It just is like
Yeah, it's great.
either he's in that
gonna
in that weird.
Let me
grow-
clear off your seat, darling.
Yeah. Either grow a beard or
I
don't,
also-
you know, and it's just in this halfway
Oh
point.
god,
Either way.
dude! And he gets the line, which I love
Yeah.
because it speaks to how anyone can rationalize anything, and it says so much about William Hurt's character because we know we have to understand this guy. He's the big bad, but because of the nature of the twist, we're only going to get him for 10 minutes. So how can we reveal like the iceberg effect of more into the service? You know, when you came home from the hospital, I hated you so much. I tried to strangle you in your crib. I guess they say all kids do that. Like, no, they don't, dude.
No, they don't.
Kids don't.
And I also like Vigo in that moment because he's also like, no, they
He's
don't.
like, yeah,
and
you
also
told
like,
me
I
that.
don't think you did strangle me. Like, I think that's a story you like to tell.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, you're a liar. This is what I know about you. He also gets the line, which once again is always a credit to like the theme of the movie, which is this hyper realism or like almost meta commentary on reality, which is probably the most wonderful moment in the movie to me,
Yep.
which is, how do you fuck that up?
Yep. I have that in my
Yeah,
notes.
yeah.
When Vigo just
It's almost like an apology for the in terms like, okay, we broke from reality for half a second, audience.
Yeah, he
so
became
let's
Superman.
acknowledge that for half a second.
Yeah,
and
you
now
kinda need
let's
that.
return
Exactly.
to the movie. Now in progress.
100%,
Mhm.
100%. And I think that is kind of like, that's how, like, it's interesting how, like, because that kind of moment happens in Miller's Crossing as well. And someone like Coen Brothers will do it in a certain way. And how Cronenberg does it is, once again, it feels like that blunt instrument where it's just like, let's just cut to the meta commentary on it.
Yeah.
And I think it's super effective here because it shows the world also that he comes from, where everything is absolute. That's the other thing, is that like Road to Perdition, for example, is all about moral relativism. When you think about that story,
Yeah.
it's about a father trying to disassociate his son from the violence of his past and the sins of the father. This movie has the same basic plot structure as that, but it needs to shoehorn all of the violence, all of the history into a moral absolutism. where it's really trying to. It's almost like a Western to me, because like it's
Unforgiven.
It's kind of
really.
like-
It is very.
Yeah.
Thing clicked for me at the same time. It's Unforgiven.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like it is a meta commentary. So like, Unforgiven is this.
I mean, we do a lot of
neo-Western.
parables about, like, America loves the story. I wish I
Mhm.
didn't have to do violence because I am a good guy. I really am.
Right.
Trust me, I'm a
Yeah.
good guy. But nevertheless, because of circumstances, I'm allowed to kill anyone who threatens me or makes me feel unsafe.
I get out
Which
of
is a funny, of course, America tells itself that, right? Like, that makes sense. But
I'm justified in
Uh,
any violent act from here on out because insert
Exactly.
reason.
because I'm the
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
guy. Right.
Yeah.
My side is correct. Therefore, everything else can be fucked.
Yeah.
You know?
And of course, you could pick that apart, as I think we just implied, and be like, maybe that's a bad lesson for us to tell ourselves all the time. Nevertheless, I don't put that at the feet of Cronenberg or this movie. It's like
No.
a time-honored
No,
movie
no.
formula.
No.
So I'm just mentioning
Yeah.
it.
And the moral absolutism seems
learned
like
it
I'm
by
making
watching
it
you.
simplistic.
So-
it's every action
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But it's like what because he's trying to say the shake the past for a virtuous path.
Yeah.
And they both characters meaning, Road to Perdition and History of Violence, have that kind of like, I got to do this thing because it's the most virtuous thing. But in this movie, he never wrestles with it. He's just like, I hope my son doesn't do
Yeah.
violence. Oh, he does violence. Gotta slap him. And I don't
Gotta
know.
slap
it's
him
just
because
violence.
I have no idea
Gotta
how.
slap him, and then even his son is an archetype. Like I want at one moment for Vigo in this movie to be like, none of this is real, because like his son runs out of the
Dude,
house,
crying
and it's
like,
like,
a bitch. Sorry.
Peak
And I don't
comedy.
talk like that, but this actor makes you feel that way about
you're just like,
him.
shut up, Jack. You
Yeah.
piece of shit.
Also, I just noticing his exact cadence and range of his vocals and little mannerisms. Dude, the way Jesse Eisenberg ate this kid's whole
Yep.
career. Like, Jesse Eisenberg absorbed this guy's career like a twin in the womb.
Like
that
a
was
Cronenberg,
the
yeah.
slot he was going for.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. There's he's just this little twerp, and it's a perfect casting because once again it's the stilted. It's kind of like how do you make that bully believable? Well, you make the kid like an AI version of Spider-Man
Yeah.
before he gets his powers.
No, you make
like
him
that-
bullyable.
And you make
Yeah,
them all
exactly.
25 actors or 25-year-old actors playing 17-year-olds naturally.
Of course.
It's
Because then
interesting.
they're bigger. But it is, and then the bully, dude. Like, what a bad bully. Also, he goes,
Yeah, super bad.
I'm going to attack you. You should punch me first. I'm standing here now. I'm going to beat you up. Your dad would be proud
What are
if
you
you
gonna
punched
do?
me. Are you going to punch
Stab
me?
me?
And then he fucking beats the shit out of him. It's like,
Out of
you
his-
could have
his
intervened at
friend
any
as well.
time, dude.
Yeah,
He
his-
beats you and your friend up, and you don't get a single shot in? You
He's
suck,
got those
bully.
Vigo genes,
Terrible.
man.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's
Terrible bully.
it's all.
I hope his
terrible.
dad
Although
beat the shit out.
sometimes
Yeah.
it's the best bully because all the bullies I knew would just piss their pants in an actual fight anyway.
Yeah,
all,
it's kind
all
it's
teens
satisfying
I
for a
knew
different
would.
reason.
All
right.
teens
Or,
in general.
yeah.
or the
Teens.
one guy who was really a bully at our school came in and stabbed a kid and went to jail. You're like, that's a bully. All right.
Yeah, that's a real
Boy,
bully.
it's a bully. They don't make them like they used to.
Back in my day, bullies used to try to murder you, not called you a slur
Yeah.
and
They were
challenge you
Stephen
to
King
hit
bullies.
'em.
They
Yeah.
carved their names in your belly and called you piggy and shit.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question of something that I wanted to know if it registered? Because it
Sure.
does totally change, or it subtly changes my interpretation of the film in a way that I'm like, that kind of makes it basic. But it might be a Christ redeemed him story, because he does wear a cross, and when he finally kills his brother says, Jesus, Joey, as if I can't believe you're going to kill me. Then he kills him, and he says, Jesus, Richie. And the way he says it this time, I interpreted it as, I found Jesus, and that's why I'm not violent anymore. Jesus, Richie. And then they go
Funny.
home and they pray together.
Well-
and I was like, oh, is he literally? And he says to his wife, I wasn't born again until I met you. I think it's
It's,
low-key supposed to be Christian.
It's funny, a little trivia.
Maybe.
They were actually going to play that ending different.
And he is baptized by
so he goes
washing himself in the lake after shooting and killing his brother, washing his blood away. So anyway, please continue.
It's
Abe.
possible.
Sorry.
Well, I was just I don't know. You it's supposed to get so it's Jesus Joey Bang, Jesus Richie, as you said. It was actually supposed to be Jesus Joey, and then he shoots Richie, and then while Vigo's looking at Richie's dead body, it lets out a huge fart. And Vigo goes, Jesus, Richie.
Okay, then maybe not.
Maybe
because
not,
that's a totally different context.
Yeah.
It was.
So I think you're totally
I
right.
do remember
It's
this
possible.
was National Lampoon's A History of Violence, right?
That's
the
right.
Well,
original
that's some
title.
fucking Venture
Cronenberg
Brothers
is-
shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cronenberg
Yeah,
is
they
a
don't
little
show that on
religious.
TV.
He's
Yeah.
kind of said it. He said it. He says I'm a little religious. So it's
Yeah,
possible.
Possible.
It comes up in a lot of his other films, which are I can't think of right now in terms of one specific example. But I think it has to do with that absolutism, right? Like he wants to be like something is unnatural because it blindly stares in the face of God and demands that you take it seriously. And I think that's the stories he likes to tell is like, oh, the horror, what humans have wrought upon themselves, is a little bit. I mean, it's why he's in Star Trek, like this motherfucker's in Star Trek. You guys know that, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty sweet. And I think it comes from the same kind of place of, like he's kind of like a Black Mirror early adopter. Like what I think Black Mirror is now famous for in terms of like the more recent zeitgeist. He's always been kind of head of that, always wanted to talk about those like humans as just these hordes of, fucked up monsters. So I do think that there is a little bit of a Jesus thing probably happening there. It's definitely like, it's not like they have a scene before where they like pray.
No, they don't.
Or
No,
Yeah.
this is.
but there is the family ritual. There's the ritual of just he works at a diner and it's Americana. There's the ritual of the small town.
It's like
Yeah.
statistically likely they would be Christian,
Well, yeah,
given their
statistically likely.
demographics.
I mean, running a diner is like the foot washing of modern day in a way, as an act of service.
Especially if you order the gravy. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
I
they
think
do.
it's
if you order the
mostly
gravy,
a-
especially, foot wash
it's
gravy is
mostly
the best kind.
things that it's just the disconnect of what we're supposed to do and what we are, right? It's just that like it's that it hits the news and it says like the shooter was just someone you would never expect would ever do this kind of stuff. I think that's where Cronenberg's looking right now, right?
Yeah.
He's saying like,
He was always a quiet
no, right there,
person.
you should have known. You
Mhm.
should have known. And also, we should expect everyone to be murderers because he has that in him, because he wants to take Jeff Goldblum and he wants to put him in a box and he wants to turn him into a fly.
That's right.
This
There's
is
two
what- this is
wolves
what the guy
inside
wants.
us, says Cronenberg. And
There
we
are
say,
two
one
flies
is,
inside
we
us,
say
really.
one is a sinner and one is virtuous. And he says, no, they're fucking
No.
wolves. They both want to kill everything.
They want to get out. They want
Yeah,
to get
they're-
out of you.
I'm talking literally. There are two wolves inside you.
I put them there.
Yeah.
It's an amazing effect. I don't,
One of my
again, just
wolves
the
is a
last
left-
thing that I was like, is this intentional or not? And I don't even care whether it's intentional or not. Lightning struck, and I
That's
thought,
where I'm at.
I
Yeah.
thought this shot was so incredible where John Hurt is whatever the opposite of short framed is, long framed. He has a lot of space in front of his nose. And
Yeah.
then as he leans forward across the desk to turn the long frame into a short frame, meaning there's a lot of space behind him. And speaking of comics, in film language, we often consider this like a thought bubble space. Like it implies that the character is having a thought. And as he turns the long frame into a short frame, he says, I've been thinking, when you dream, and I'm like, that's so cool to me.
Yeah.
That he's literally saying, I'm
he's literally
thinking,
giving
as
space
he
for
gives
thought,
space
yeah.
for his thought balloon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of
I
comic.
wonder if that's in the graphic novel because that is a very graphic novel way of
I will tell you
showing
that
it.
that is not because Richie is not his
Doesn't
brother,
exist.
not a mob boss. He's just
Right.
he at this stage of the movie / comic. Richie is like has all of his limbs off and is hanging from a meat hook. and might as
Reek.
well. He's essentially Reek. I cannot tell you how much you do not need to read the graphic novel.
Great. Whereas I will say Road to Perdition's a great read, and the art is
Yes,
incredible.
it is. Agreed.
Very unique art style. The guy does almost not photo because of his style, but very realistic drawings using little scribbles. I've never seen art quite like it. Very
The
unique.
art isn't too bad in this book, and the artist is best known for drawing album covers for Cannibal Corpse, which seems appropriate given the
Okay.
subject matter.
Now I know the
But
style, I think.
Yeah. So it's a bit scratchy and again fits the tone, but like I said, the story you could just skip. Just look at the pretty artwork in certain aspects and you can move on with your life.
Speaking of artwork, dude,
Yeah.
have you seen the poster cover for the theatrical release of this movie? It's also, if you go to like the
No, I haven't.
Wikipedia, it's what's on there. Basically Vigo stands, the camera's low angle, looking at him.
With
Vigo's
the gun in his face.
looking
Yeah.
at a man foreground with a gun, and it literally covers half of Vigo's face like Two-Face, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And on the same side of the gun, so the gun side is his wife Maria Bello, and so his
angel on his
wife
shoulder.
and reputation of his new life is all being
God.
threatened by this gun.
Yeah.
And then behind them is dark, ominous clouds. It's a banger, man.
And I know
talk
that
about
shit's intentional.
Story in quadrants.
Because Cronenberg is absolutely doing
Totally.
grid and barrier shit.
Oh,
Like
of
when
course.
his son first gets bullied, he collapses down into what is visually a little box. And then in the moment where
Yeah.
Maria Bello realizes he really is lying and his whole life is a lie, she goes and vomits, and then we cut to a profile 2 shot where she's on the right, he's on the left, and there's a curtain making an exact perfect line down the middle, like, oh, they're in different cells now. So I believe all that definitely intentional for sure.
I think it's
Cronenberg
intentional.
is
Oh,
aware
yeah.
of that level, or
Yeah,
working on that
he's
level.
Again,
visually
blunt
he's up
instrument.
there.
Yeah, lines
Um,
and squares. It's
Yep.
it's a classic, but he's using it correctly, and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
that's all
Yeah.
you need
Listen,
to do to make a
classics
good movie.
are classics for a reason, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
Speaking of, it has a perfect screenplay structure, which we haven't mentioned explicitly, but I'm sure you both picked up on. But for the audience's benefit, exactly 10 minutes in, he smashes the bowl of coffee on the guy and shows off that he has superpowers. Exactly 30 minutes in, Ed Harris walks into the diner. Exactly 45 minutes in, his son asks, "Is this all real? And what if this is all real?" And he says, "Then we'll deal with it," and cocks a shotgun. And
What's the
then
midpoint?
exactly 1
Yep.
hour in, he finally breaks his cover, attacks Ed Harris, and his son shoots him with a shotgun. So now his family's totally alienated,
Yeah,
and we have to
that's right.
go kill everyone to save our
Yeah,
family.
Mhm.
And then, of course, 20 minutes before the end, to signal that the big climactic thing's about to start, someone asks, "Are you Joey?" And he says, "You know what? Yeah, I'm Joey." Also a great line in context.
Right,
Mhm.
right. Yeah, so
It's
the
totally John Wick
classic
saying, "I'm
structure.
thinking I'm back," but I
Yep.
actually like it better.
Yeah, this is proto John
I'm
Wick.
thinking I'm
This,
back.
the
Yeah.
screenplay to this movie is just
I'm Joey.
the screenplay to this movie is just a basic ass chicken breast 2 sides dinner. It's perfect. You know, it gets the job done. Structurally
Right.
speaking.
Cronenberg, he may gross you out talking about the new flesh in the office every day, but god damn it, he gets the job done.
It gets the job. It gets the job
Yeah.
done.
You may be a little freak.
He may
But
be a weird
man, oh
little
man.
guy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I'm just trying
Son
to
of a
think
bitch
of
makes
like
a good chicken piccata.
I want like Cronenberg's John Wick now. I mean, I know that's what we're talking about, but I like want it so it's like John Wick is like
Modern day with the modern
my
stunt
dog,
team and
my-
everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
and it just like things around him, tendrils go into his face.
Right.
And then
It's
he's like,
John
I'm-
Wick, but instead of just killing people, he takes the time to laboriously turn them inside out every time.
He like,
Because it's
cuts out an
Cronenberg.
organ and
Yeah.
keeps it in a little box that he has.
That's his thing. He has to turn them inside. He has to see the ribs or else it doesn't work for him.
has to
Yeah.
melt in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is interesting in terms of because we mentioned earlier, and we're kind of doing it again. The American, like, this is probably where a lot of this stuff is coming from for I mean, honestly, probably for the graphic novel too, because it's pretty low hanging fruit. But just the fetishism of violence in American cinema, right?
Yeah.
John Wick, which, you know, by all accounts, fucking rules.
Beyond hyperreal also treats the violence as a comic book would, right?
Yeah,
it's a thrill ride.
It's cartoonish.
We're all self-aware enough to know that we have been trained as viewers to look at that as awesome.
This isn't real violence; it's an action movie, right?
Well, it's defective, and in terms of John Wick, it's so over the top and ridiculous to the point. It's like, oh, this is so implausible that it's okay for me to be entertained by it because
it's like Gunkata. It's a martial arts film, but with guns. Yeah,
that stuff's tough because it's like that's the Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail to me a little bit. For like perfectly the reasons why you said, you know, like we wouldn't have that articulation unless we absolutely were raised on things like the Western, or
100%,
you know, the action movie of the 80s and 90s, where it's like guns are awesome.
Martial arts films, like
we wouldn't have the kind of thought process to be like, oh, what if we hyper sensationalize it and make it a cartoon,
stylize it until
then
it's
it'll
like
almost
a dance.
be more fun. Whereas I do think there's people who exist on the earth who like watch John Wick and go, oh my God, this is what
Americans
like.
are fucking crazy. They love guns so much.
I
would be like, that's fair.
Has said that
that's a fair observation. He's like, you all want to fuck your guns. Like, what is up with
what
that?
Is your deal?
Not wrong. Not wrong.
Not wrong. But, you know, you want to watch a guy getting eaten by a grizzly bear, so shut up, Werner Herzog.
Yeah. You're also a certain type of freak.
Not a character, a person.
Yeah.
Getting
you
by
little puppet lover. You little Grogu man.
You little Grogu.
You must never listen to this.
Never CG this baby.
Yeah. You want to. You don't want
this to be real. This must be real for
What
me.
did he say? It broke his heart when he walked on the set in Star Wars. He's like, it broke my heart. I was like, what the fuck?
No, but he meant out of like appreciation, I think.
Yeah, it was
out of that's what's amazing.
So cute.
Is I love that he's such a weird, experimental, bold, psychological filmmaker and maniac who's responsible for needless deaths.
Yep.
But he is also like, man, this expensive set is so rad. Like, he can appreciate the magic of franchise film. That's funny to me about Werner Herzog.
He sees, well,
I thought he'd be too good for it. You know?
He loves WrestleMania, for God's sakes.
He watches WrestleMania.
Yeah. So of course he loves artifice. That's the thing. That's his deal.
He's just a showman.
The dinosaurs, and the baby says, not the mama.
Here comes honey.
It broke my heart. It broke my heart.
It's just like it's hilarious to me, but he's not off. And I this is something I love about world cinema, is that like no one is safe from it, because we're intensely flawed creatures that are just stories written by our past, which is a series of history is fucked up. So what does that mean about history's children?
Well, it is an Ouroboros evolution, because I truly believe genetics play a big role, but then I think the main aspect of nurture is all the stories that you get fed as you grow, and then those program the stories you tell, and then programs the next generation. So like storytelling is so crucial to the direction humanity goes in, and
DNA,
yet
dude.
It can only be based on previous stories. So it's a very incremental growth.
Right. And I think you don't need to necessarily be outside of the culture to kind of view it with that, outside perspective, but it does put things in like context when you go like, well, this filmmaking or this cultural like movement or like Asian cinema or something like that is really reductive, or it's, backward because it does these things with like, let's say, sex. And we're like over here, we're like, sex is whatever, baby. But then it's like the second you hand us a gun, we're like, that needs to be important. That's in the first act that we have a name for it. It's called Chekhov's gun, and we need to see it. If we don't see it, we're disappointed.
And it's actually a bazooka that rotates and shoots shotgun blasts of bazooka missiles.
And then it talks to you, and it's its own character with a personality and is your best friend.
Yeah, it talks. It's voiced by Justin Roiland from before that stuff happened.
Anyway, what were we talking about? cinema. Like it's that kind of stuff where I love that. I love cinema of the hyperreal because it does this kind of stuff. Like it's like, what is naturalistic? Well, it makes me think of the fact that this is all a movie. When you have a bully who acts like that, I am immediately thinking of cameras and lights and like crew days and like, crafty tables, because I'm like, this is all a play. Like you have deassociated me from the story a little bit, and it's a hard line to walk, but if you do it right, it absolutely pays dividends. And I think this movie actually nails it. I mean, this is critically acclaimed. It was up for the Palme d'Or in Cannes, Cannes. And it was like fucking like beloved. This movie is seen as like probably David Cronenberg's best film by a lot of people, which is crazy considering
because people like normie films.
Well,
This
is it has more general appeal by comparison to his other works
because it's broader. It can,
yeah.
Although The Fly obviously is hugely respected. I think,
of course,
yeah. I mean, Naked Lunch, Existence.
Yeah, I never
seen
that one
movies.
either. I should see that.
All these movies are
Steely
like
Dan is named after that. Yeah,
super well known for his style, for what he brings to the table, his specific voice, and this is definitely not in it. That's why I kind of referenced the David Lynch,
the Straight Story,
Elephant Man and Straight Story.
Man, it's rare that you are such a unique artistic voice that a word is coined like Cronenbergian. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't even hear anyone say Wes Andersonian, but Cronenbergian.
But you could probably
word. Like, people would know what you mean. But I'm just saying that's pretty cool. Like Shakespearean, Cronenbergian,
Lynchian,
for real,
Coen Brothers ish.
See, I don't think people even say that, but it's just because it doesn't roll off the tongue.
But
I think it also speaks.
But you know what I mean when I say, "Oh, it's Coen Brothers-y." It's like, oh, it's dark with a little quirk here and there that makes it okay to possibly laugh at it.
I know exactly what you mean, but I think it's the uniqueness of Cronenberg. The fact that there's very few people like him is also a part of that conversation. It's not just like his absolute ability to pull off the thing that he's doing. He absolutely is pulling it off. But the fact that no one is even in that space makes the term click for us.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of people trying to be Coen Brothers. There's not a lot of people. I mean, I guess there are.
Well, his children are trying very hard.
Well, I mean,
but
like
that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, because, we're using a term that was coined by like Rick and Morty, basically. Like it's. But the term kind of existed before.
Oh, Cronenbergian. My dad said Cronenbergian. Like, it's an old term.
Cronenbergian. I was just like Cronenberg's.
Yeah, he's right as a little creature. That joke is unique to them.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's in his in a sandbox all by himself, and he peed in the corner because he marked it as his territory.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why we're like that term makes sense to a lot of us, because we know the types of films he makes. And they're unique.
Yep.
Tim Burton's in the other corner, like, I get dibs on this section with the black vertical stripes, no takebacks.
Yeah. I have a certain type of lady I like. Yeah. There's a lot of shit going on, man. A lot of shit going on.
I'm done with this, though. How about you?
I'm done with this.
I'm good.
I've had my way with it.
Any last thoughts from you? If not, feel free to segue right into some plugs.
Yeah,
man.
what are you working on?
What am I working
on?
Well, what I'm currently working on in the midst of everything is I'm trying to promote a Kickstarter that I'm sort of a part of. I've been writing lore and helping with character creation and all kinds of stuff for a new line of action figures called Monsters. And these good gentlemen will put up the link for that. If you're interested and grew up with the, TMNT, Street Sharks, and Masters of the Universe of the day, this might be something that you're interested in. We hope to just continue to make these awesome figures line by line, and we got plans for them in case we expand to maybe turn it into a show eventually, and board games and all that type of stuff.
Maybe they'll play basketball against the Looney Tunes for the fate of the earth.
Maybe they will.
Who knows?
If and then David Zaslav will make a film and then not release it and write it off. But in the meantime, take a look at our action figures of Shamumu and Sting Cobra, 2 of the Monsters. And if you're into that, please support the Kickstarter and get yourself some awesome toys for you, and kids dig them too. So perfect for the adult
That's
collector
awesome, man.
and for the kid or kid in heart in your life. So,
It's a cool project.
thanks, man. And you can,
Yeah.
and if you're interested in anything that I said, follow me on the website formerly known as Twitter and Instagram at Erik W. Barnes, and see what else I'm doing. I'm doing stand-up improv. I sometimes go to movie nights attend movie nights for Gamefully Unemployed and with these gentlemen as well. So yeah, thanks for having me, Small Beans.
Thanks, man. That's
Thank
a cool
you, dude.
project. Again, it's Monsters as an O instead of an E at the end.
Yeah.
Cool, guys. Well, that was a nice little Cronenberg afternoon that we had.
Mhm.
I'd say so.
New
I'd say
flesh.
it's good time to return to our pods. Everything's gonna be fine when
everything's
we
gonna be
come out.
okay.
Yeah.
Return
I'm gonna
to
go
our
sit
Nice
in my
little teleportation.
I'm gonna sit in my
Nothing
bone
big.
chair that gives me pain but also pleasure.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit in my stand box and go pee in the
Yeah.
corner for a little bit.
Otherwise known as our podcast.